Good afternoon, everyone. Bless you. Welcome to the Business, Finance, and Justice Committee meeting. Today is January 19th, 2023. I call this meeting to order at 3 p.m. Invocation, Representative Freeman, if you'd provide that, please.
Holy Father, thank you for this day and thank you for your blessings. Do us now as we go through our meeting. Guide us and direct us. Bless us with your wisdom.
Amen. Thank you, Representative Freeman. Roll call, Legislative Clerk April Lindsay.
Patrick Freeman.
Here.
Sandra Golden.
Present.
Randall Hicks.
Present.
Thomasine Yehola Osborne.
Present.
Mark Randolph.
Present.
Madam Chair, you got 5 present and 0 absent.
We have 5 present and 0 absent. This constitutes a quorum. Any business conducted will be valid. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from November 28th, 2022 budget hearing, December 6th, 2022 budget hearing, and December 8th, 2022. When the committee is ready, I'll entertain a motion.
All in the good parts.
Yeah. We did get proper reps.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the minutes with any necessary changes.
We have a motion from Representative Golden to accept the minutes with any changes necessary. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Freeman. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. The minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is order of business. TR 23-013, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Patricia Killian as the Controller and the Secretary of Treasury for the Muskogee Creek Nation. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Representative Hicks?
Madam Chair, I can't see who all is there. I don't know if Patricia's in the audience or not, but if she is, I'd like to give her a few minutes.
Yes, sir.
Or we could just.
Yes, sir, she is. Ms. Killian, if you come
Okay,
to
I
the
was
podium.
gonna say.
You come to the podium, please. Ms. Killian, if you'll just give us a brief description of who you are and why you feel you're qualified for the position, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. A little bit about myself. My name is Patricia Killian. I'm originally from Oakmulgee, graduated from Oakmulgee High School. I went on to college, Oklahoma State University, and then on to Northwestern Oklahoma State University to receive my accounting degree. Went back to Oklahoma State and I have a management degree. Right now I'm in the process of getting my master's from Southeastern. I've been here actually at the Nation since 2012, where I have worked in the Office of the Treasury before. Gained a lot of valuable experience with people that I worked with at the time. And before coming to the Nation, I did work about 16 years in the banking industry. Was there and I was a controller at the Central National Bank there until we moved. And then I've worked also in the manufacturing industry to a nonprofit before coming to the Nation. So I think I do have my education. I've gained valuable experience, not only from outside of the Nation, but with inside the Nation. I am Muskogee Creek. So accounting is what I like to do. This is my tribe. So I'm here to do my job for the benefit of the nation, for our citizens, and that's where I think that's what I bring in, not only experience, but the passion, for my tribe to to work here and do a good job. So, do you have any questions for me?
Ms. Killian, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to come back to the pre-agenda at 9 a.m. on the 28th of this month. We prefer to have the full council available for any questions for you.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
We need to vote. Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
No.
Sandra Golden.
No.
Madam Chair, you got 2 in favor and 2 against, and for a tie, you get to vote.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 2 against.
We have 3 in favor, 2 against. TR 23-013 passes. TR 23-014, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to submit a small rural and tribal body-worn camera program grant application for the benefit of the Muskogee Creek Nation Light Horse Police Department. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Freeman. Discussion? Representative Randolph?
Give a little time to the light horse chief, Mr. Phillips.
SJ Council, thank you, Representative Randall. Um, This is for 28 body-worn cameras for our officers to be utilized out in the field. And this is for a match in the amount of $29,494.97. It's to match a 1-to-1 for the cameras.
Thank you, Chief Phillips. Are there any questions? Representative Golden?
Chief Phillips. Thank you. Was this did you bring this up to the Light Horse Commission and what was did they approve it?
Yes, ma'am, I sent it on January 6th.
When did they approve it?
I don't know that they did. Is there even enough of them to vote?
At their last meeting?
At their last meeting, there
Their
was
last
only
meeting,
3,
You submitted this and they approved
but
it.
there were only 3 present and 1 left, so that left 2 there. So did they have the quorum to vote?
Yeah, well, I just have a concern that, we've been talking about our Light Horse Commission, and so we're approving stuff that they don't know about, and that's my concern. So I don't know if we're following the process or if we're not, and that's why I'm asking, because we should have a
It was
process
sent
to
to
be
him, yes, ma'am.
following.
It was sent to them.
But you don't know if they proved it.
No. Again, I don't know if they have enough to vote for it.
How does this fit into the rest of the radio system that you have or that's being put in?
The cameras to the radios?
Yeah. Do they match? Do they complement each other?
Down the road, yes, there will be a deal where we'll meet with our IT departments where we can make those shake hands. Or once we get our CCTV in, they'll also be able to shake hands with that as well.
So I know this is a grant that you're going to submit.
Yes.
Okay. And so, like I said, my concern is how it fits into the whole picture. One of the things we've been talking about is planning. And so you plan, but you base it on a need. And that's how this fits in. And that's the reason I'm asking.
Right, and down the road, I mean, speaking with the Harris Systems, it's going to do marvelous things, and we're looking forward to it. And it will shake hands, is what we were told. Cameras, radios, somewhere down the line, I hope we get them in our cars as well. Have dash cams in our units as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Golden. Are there any other questions? I think one of the questions that I have is, or comment is, I'm not sure that the Light Horse has a policy and procedure to follow.
I'm talking about us. We're approving stuff that,
Well, what I'm saying is that I don't know if there's a policy and procedure for it to go to the Light Horse Commission for approval. So I think that's kind of where we're stuck.
I think it does state that in the legislation.
that's the law.
Okay. So it does state in there? Okay, thank you.
You get, is Alicia in here?
Alicia?
You could comment on this, but I think it is stated that we've talked about it several times on different things. But just basically, it's a grant application. You know, it's something that,
Right.
that in my opinion, it's probably any kind of equipment or anything that kind of lends itself to have them do, you know, a better service. And you know, I think it is good, but it still needs to have that kind of little. We have the commission in place. We need that little check off from the oversight side of this. So that's, but you know, I mean, I think it's fine to approve an application. My opinion.
Thank you, Representative Freeman. Are there any other questions? Representative Freeman, did you want to wait on Alicia?
No, but she'll clarify that for us later.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
No,
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 1 against.
We have 3 in favor, 1 against. TR 23-014 passes. TR 23-015, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to submit a grant application to the United States Department of Agriculture for the benefit of the Light Horse Police Department. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph. Do I have a second?
Second, Representative Hicks.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll have the Light Horse Police Chief speak again, please.
Hello, Representative Hicks, Randolph. This grant, it's going to pay 35% to the band, and it was based off the population here in Okmulgee, and we're asking for it's a 148 total. We had to come up with the 35%, which is 50,000 of that is grant funded. So it leaves the match of 98,800 for this band that we had purchased.
Thank you, Chief Phillips. Are there any other questions? Representative Golden?
same question, sir. Was this grant application discussed with the commission?
It was sent on the same day, ma'am, with the commission.
So you still don't know if it was approved or not?
Again, there's 3 there, so I don't know if they were approving. Can they vote? Can they approve it?
Well, that's not what I'm asking you, sir. I'm asking, did the commission, y'all discussed it and they approved it and said, send it to the council for approval?
I submitted it to them. I've not talked to them, no.
Representative Golden, it's already been established that
Yeah, I
What?
just asked the
Hold on.
question.
that there was only 2. 1 got up and left, so we're still in the same dilemma. Nothing has changed. Any other questions, concerns? Representative Freeman?
I just want to clarify, you know, as the commission sits now, I mean, they've had two for national council, and you know, to have an official voting process that officially signifies, you know, but they can make recommendations. You know, they don't necessarily, it's not official until they have a, you know, a signed, sealed little formal action, you know, like Robert's Rules of Orders, but they can make a recommendation, and that's what they've been doing in lieu of not having a quorum.
Madam Chair.
Any other questions from anyone else? Representative Golden?
Basically, my point is that we do have a commission, and if we don't have a process or we don't make sure that we have a process and we're not utilizing it, then they can't do the oversight that we're requesting by law. And so if we don't make sure that we do that, then we're not following the law. We hold our citizens' feet to the fire. If they didn't check off something, we send it back and we make them do that and bring it back to us. But we're not doing that here, and that's my point. Thank you.
Representative Randolph?
I'd just like to say with my observation, I don't know how it's Chief Phillips' responsibility for the commission to operate the way they're supposed to. That's their responsibility. To me, the commission should be in place. They should get everything they've done. They've been assigned to. They're paid a stipend to do a position and a job for the nation, and it's not his responsibility. That's what I would say. That's my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Any more discussion?
One more thing.
Representative Randolph?
I would like to say to Chief Phillips that I think you're doing a great job. I see a lot of things on the Facebook, the reports, the things that you do, the accomplishments that you're making. I want to thank you and I commend you. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Any questions from the representatives online or in attendance? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
No.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 1 against.
We have 3 in favor, 1 against. TR 23-015 is approved. TR 23-016, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Janet Malin to serve on the Muskogee Loan Fund Board. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion to adopt.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Excuse me.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion? Representative Randolph?
Madam Chair, Ms. Malin's here. Could you come down, please, to the podium?
Good afternoon, Ms. Malin. If you'll give us a brief description of who you are and why you feel qualified for the position on the board, please.
Yes, my name is Janet Malin. I am currently a program officer with Indian Collective out of Rapid City, South Dakota. I also work part-time for Thaco Tribal Town as a director of grants and contracts. I've been involved with grants, financial administration for almost 20 years now, but I've also dedicated my career to business development and economic development in our Stajati communities, especially our rural communities. But my intent is to serve the nation and hopefully build more businesses in our communities through the Loan Fund Board. But I have experience from tribal treasury to grant writing to proposals to administering grants, and now I manage over $7 million a year in our foundation grant making within our organization. So.
Thank you, Ms. Malin. We're not going to ask you any questions today. What we're going to ask you to do is to come before the full council on January 28th at pre-agenda at 9 a.m.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right,
Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-016 is approved. TR 23-017, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the Muskogee Nation Gaming Enterprises, LLC, MNGE, to deposit additional funds in the Muskogee Creek Nation Casinos Insurance Reserve Fund. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Motion due pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Chris Ray should be on. If not, Andy Langston or Pat Croft should be on.
Mr. Ray?
And I'd like to give them some time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Representative Hicks. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very similar piece of legislation. We have brought this before the BF&J committee before, asking for your blessing to be able to deposit some additional funds into our insurance reserve fund as we seek or attempt to become self-insured somewhere down the line. As insurance premiums continue to rise significantly the last several years, we've made a concerted effort as an enterprise to hopefully alleviate some of those costs by becoming self-insured. That's pretty much the gist of this piece of legislation that's in front of you. It's very similar to what we have brought in previous years. And then I will defer to Andy or Pat if there's anything additional that they would like to add to my comments.
Thank you, Chairman. Are there any additional comments?
No, I believe Chairman Ray covered it all.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? Any questions from the representatives online or in attendance? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-017 passes. And just an FYI, Representative Hicks has COVID, so he's at home, but he's zooming in. TR 23-018. A tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing Muskogee Nation Gaming Enterprises, LLC, MNGE, to deposit additional gaming funds in its capital expenditure account for the Eufaula Casino project. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Chairman, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion, Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to give Chairman Chris Ray some time to explain this as well.
Chairman
Thank
Ray.
you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chairman. This again is very similar to the TR 23-017. As we move forward with our Eufaula project, with our new project at that location, our goal is to be able to pay for that respective project without having to borrow any money from any lending institution. With the increase in interest rates, any money that we borrow is going to be at a significant rate. So we have brought legislation to you before, and we currently have some money in this account, and we would like to deposit additional funds into this account so that we may be able to pretty much complete that project without having to go to the outside market for any financial resources to complete that project. And again, Pat, Andy, if you would like to add anything to my comments on that respective piece of legislation, please feel free to do so.
Any comments, gentlemen?
None for me.
Thank you.
I think Chris covered it. The gist of it is that this project has been going for a long time, and we've been saving up for a long time, and we're now in process, and we would like to, as Chris mentioned, go ahead and finish it without having to borrow. Our current debt is locked in at a very low rate, but if we borrow new money, it'll be at current rate. So we really appreciate your consideration of this.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Representative Freeman?
Yes, maybe Andy or Pat can ask, when is your tentative start date for this project? Is it first quarter, second quarter, third quarter?
Representative Freeman, I can't hear you for some reason.
Andy, do you know what time your start date would be, the tentative construction start date?
I know that all the engineering documents and the construction documents should be finished in August is what our timeline looks at right now. So sometime after August, we should be able to start turning dirt.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Any questions from the representatives online or in attendance? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-018 passes. NCA 23-007, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of the Borealis Philanthropy Racial Equity and Journalism Fund Grant for the benefit of Muskogee Media. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second, Representative Hicks.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
I'd like to give some time to Ms. Ellis.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ellis.
Good afternoon, committee. Thank you for having me. We have applied for the Borealis Foundation's Racial Equity in Journalism Fund, and those funds are designated to provide new computers, training, travel, and also to help us contract with other citizens who produce content that we will run on our platforms in order to provide a more diversified representation of Muskogee citizens in the media. And it was approved from that foundation, and we will expend that over the next few months, really, for the equipment. The equipment is something that we will purchase right away, and the contract with the citizens to produce content would come out over the next several months as we work with them to produce like monthly features.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions? Representative Golden?
Yes. Thank you. When you decided, or the Muskogee Media put in for this grant, did you work with the board to do this?
Yes, I didn't even have any awareness of this grant. It was handed to me from my board and asked to pursue that kind of diverse funding that would help support our department. I wasn't even really in the grant making network, but it was handed down from our board president.
But your board is the one that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Ellis? Any questions from the representatives online or in attendance? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks. Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-007 passes. Next item on the agenda is referred legislation. We have no referred legislation. Next item on the agenda is other business. And we have gaming, MNGE, GOAB, ready for your report.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Representative Hicks. Make a motion to go into executive session for the MNGE report.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to go in executive session. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Randolph. Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against.
Who would you like to stay?
That motion passes. Representative Hicks, who do you want to stay? We're in executive session at 3:30.
Again, I can't see who all's out there.
Okay, Muskogee Nation Business Enterprise. Who's coming forward? Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
If you want to go ahead and start on your report, we'd appreciate it.
I sent over a detailed report, and for the update, I'll just touch on some of the highlights for you all. As far as the holding company level this time of year, the major initiatives are completing our FY22 audit. We also have our 401k audit in process. We did complete our benefits renewal the end of December for a January 1 start date. As with gaming, we had noticed with our benefits, there has been a major increase. So during this time, we did visit with the executive branch to see if there's a way that some of the independent agencies could also see what the cost would be to get on their insurance. Our increase this year alone was at 36% for us. And a major part of our business is the human assets that we sell, the human capital. So benefits in this labor market are very important for retaining and attracting personnel. So unfortunately, that didn't work out for us for the renewal period. So we do hope to continue those conversations to see if that's a possibility moving into the next fiscal year. In addition to that, a major part of the first quarter was the hire and onboarding of personnel. You'll notice as we get further into the report, we've had a major increase in our placements in our federal side, a lot of awards coming through, which has also caused an increase in our corporate office. So we have added additional personnel to support these ongoing contracts. The bulk of the reporting is going to come from Muskogee Staffing Solutions. The highlights for this quarter: in October, Muskogee Staffing completed its 5th program year in the 8A Business Development Program. We did submit all of our information to the SBA and met those requirements. In October, we also completed the 4th year in the Small Business All Small Mentor Protege Program with our joint venture Muskogee Aurora JV and submitted all of the reporting requirements to the SBA requirements. Also in December, Muskogee Staffing is one of our cleared companies, and we did complete the Defense Security Service Security Vulnerability Assessment. This is a part of our entity that handles the classified management of classified contracts. I am very proud to say that as a part of that rating matrix, there were 2 categories where Muskogee Staffing, one did receive a commendable rating, as well as Muskogee International, and then another category that we received superior, with an overall rating being satisfactory and no vulnerabilities found. To give you just a brief update on where we are, you can see the commercial sector remained the same with no major growth. That is pretty typical for that industry for this time frame. We usually see an uptick during the spring and summer months as they increase seasonal workers. However, we did not lose any placements during that time. And within the first quarter, we did hire a new business development director and a new staffing coordinator who have gained some pretty large clients here in the Okmulgee area and are actually expanding outside just Okmulgee and the Muskogee areas. For federal placements, you can see that number increased dramatically. One contract alone, BAMC, which was awarded in the 4th quarter, finally kicked off during this quarter and added 135 positions across the 13 medical facilities in San Antonio. We also did kick off the HUD HR Surge Support contract, which added 7 positions as well. Aside from our normal operations supporting Aberdeen Proving Ground and UHS, HUD, we were also awarded 2 new contracts in the first quarter. one at Department of State for $15 million, and also with our Muskogee Aurora joint venture was awarded an Air Force contract that we will be kicking off in Q2. Aside from all of the onboarding of the personnel, Muskogee staffing did complete 22 bid submissions totaling over 180 or 289 million, and those are listed for you. Muskogee Asset Protection does not have a lot of reporting. They have struggled significantly with closeouts of projects that they had during this time frame with supply chain shortages, also having labor shortages and working through those, sometimes being out with COVID and still trying to complete their projects. However, we did submit their 8A application during the first quarter. It was requested by the SBA for some more information, and we are completing that application process to be submitted by the end of January. We will anticipate with the service offerings and the additional NAICS codes for Muskogee Asset Protection to see that subsidiary become profitable very shortly after their 8A certification. There is not a whole lot of reporting with Muskogee Business Services. As you know, that subsidiary is the company that holds just the drug screening inherited by Trade and Commerce. Recently, it has picked up the Muskogee Creek Nation Division of Health for their employee drug testing. So that is one additional client that they have received there. I did send you the financial statements for the quarter. As you can see, there has been a major change for the quarter. The overall collectively between all operating subsidiaries, the gross income from this quarter was $6,158,000, less the operating expenses brought a net profit for all subsidiaries combined at $235,821. For distributions, we did make, I actually got Bert's signature, our chairman, today, a second one for the signature authority on those checks, and did give them to Ms. Killian. So you did receive the first quarter or the last quarter 2022 payment, as well as a distribution for this first quarter of $30,000. That is a very conservative number, only because we just began kicking off those contracts, and currently with what we have in place, the payroll is running at about $500,000. So we're just building up a little bit of reserve for the anticipated payroll of these new contracts that have come in. So I anticipate that, and I don't want to speak for the board, but I'm sure that they're going to increase that amount based on these numbers that we have. I've also provided you with a company breakdown that shows our company census and where all of the employees are, what divisions that they work for, as well as a breakdown of how many are Muskogee and of other tribes. And then also provided a listing of all of the board meetings held over the first quarter. Do you have any questions, or is there, Chairman?
Any questions? Any questions from representatives online or in attendance? Representative Golden?
Ms. McCutcheon, wouldn't the last quarter you guys were, well, actually the last year, you guys have been looking for property because of your expansion? How is that going?
That is not going well. I actually had, we had submitted a request with some ARPA funding back when the previous Secretary of the Nation was here, but we weren't for sure where the funding, if it had all been exhausted. Ms. Branson informed me that that had kind of been put on hold at the time. I did resubmit it to Mr. Harjo and was hoping that something would be on January's agenda, but we have been looking for property right now. We have been located at the facility that we're in before I was ever even at the company, I would say early 2000s, and it's individually owned. So we're paying rent, but at the time that we have had to onboard for the amount of contracts that we have recently been awarded, we have people there, some 3 to 4 to an office. everybody's doubling up to have enough room. So I'm kind of waiting to hear. Mr. Harjo did tell me there was a separate pool of money that would hopefully be able to have justification and approval for the purchase and acquisition of buildings, but I haven't received any word on that.
Thank you.
I will say that as long as that we have been tenants of that location there on Wood Drive, we could have paid for something 10 times over with the amount of rent that we have paid. Thank you.
Ms. McCutcheon, how long has it been since you've reached out to Mr. Harjo?
I seen him last month, and that's where he indicated it would be on this agenda, but I haven't seen that come up yet.
Mr. Harjo is online.
Zechariah.
So, Mr. Harjo, if you don't mind to comment on that, please.
Yeah, so can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So we have put together a number of proposed spending bills using ARPA funding as last updated council, I believe in December and the end of November. The ARPA funds were actually over encumbered, but we did so knowing that the DA1, DA2, and the vaccine incentive programs were vastly underutilized based on what was budgeted. So there will be a fair amount of funding returning that will need to be reallocated. So what I was hoping to do, but just with the way the budgets and a number of things to start the year have happened, I was hoping to put together a special session related to ARPA projects that a number of departments would be presenting to council. I'm still hoping to do that, but at this point it will likely have to happen in February. But we did talk about a potential acquisition using ARPA funds. However, there are a number of, not necessarily concerns, but requirements based on the final rule from Treasury that we have to fulfill or demonstrate that we've considered before we can make a real property acquisition using ARPA funding. I do believe that Muskogee Nation businesses would be more than able to demonstrate that they were negatively impacted by the pandemic in terms of their business and their economic activity. So they could potentially qualify for it, but like I said, there's a number of steps that we have to go through. But the last time I spoke with Ms. McCutcheon, the ARPA funding that they requested was mostly budgetary support. The acquisition of new property, though, would be, I think, a different discussion. So that we have legislation prepared for about, I think, 8 or 9 different proposals to reallocate ARPA funding that will be coming back to the ARPA general revenue from, like I said, the DA1, DA2, and vaccine programs. But the actual legislation to acquire new property for MNB or any of the subsidiaries of the nation, we have not worked on those just yet. So I know the last time I spoke with Ms. McCutcheon, we talked about several pieces of property, but to develop that legislation, we'd have to get back together and identify either a budget or an actual property that they would, sincerely be looking to acquire. And then we'd have to go through all the reasonings and go through their financial numbers and, just their, the period of performance, starting from March of 2020 through, the current time, and how their financial records demonstrate a loss or a negative impact from the pandemic, and then kind of go from there. So we do have part of the, I guess, the assistance intended or that they requested originally from the ARPA General Fund back in 21. And I believe those could be directly eligible, but the actual acquisition of a new property, like I said, that requires a few more steps that we have yet to actually do. So I'm more than happy to get back with Ms. McCutcheon and, work out those final details. Like I said, we'd have to set a budget. We'd have to kind of defend it in relation to the final rule. Or, if there's a specific piece of property in mind, and I know that the real estate in Okmulgee is pretty limited at the time being, we'd have to identify, like I said, a budget or, an actual piece of property. So I'm more than happy to do that. It just, the way the schedule has worked out this year has not been too favorable to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Any other questions? Okay, we appreciate your report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Muskogee International.
So I'll just jump straight into the first operating highlights here. For the first Department of State IDIQ, we're down to 8 task orders. About half of those are going to be completed by March 30th, and then the rest of them will go out to June 30th. The Facility Management Support Services contract, that one's been humming along just fine. No issues there. Navy camera installations, contract that was awarded back in 2019. We're down to just 2 sites that we're waiting for 2 ports to be installed by the Navy so that we can complete those. Then we'll finally be able to mark that one off our list. The next one on the list, Department of State IDIQ, is the one that we're a subcontractor to MSS on, awarded about $33.7 million. Reached the ceiling on that one, so that's about all we'll get out of it. The GSA STARS 3, I would say 90-some% of that's going with sole source, which we're not eligible for, so not really having any luck there. Then looking ahead, we've already talked about the first one on the list. The second one on the list was the subcontract to MSS, cap there. The third one on the list is, this was the IDIQ that we were working with Department of State and MSS on that we thought was going to be awarded for $75 million. It was actually recently awarded this first quarter for $15 million. So we'll only probably get subcontracted about $7 million of that. From what we're hearing is Department of State is moving away from sole sources. So it's going to be a lot more competitive landscape there. From what I've seen over the years, AQM's not really built to actually competitively bid all of the work that they do have. They've been doing this 8A sole source to ANCs and tribal companies for decades. So hopefully we can get that ceiling raised on that, because it's going to be really tough for them, I think, to meet their goals otherwise. But we'll see where it goes from there. The next one on the list, this is the one that we're a subcontractor in Mexico for Capgemini, or it's actually the whole Western Hemisphere. It covers South America as well. But we haven't seen any activity on this thing through the first quarter of 2023. I'm not projecting really any significant activity moving forward. Went down in November to Mexico, talked to some of the INL people. From what they're telling me is the director down there doesn't want to do any contracts over $250,000, which is not going to get very much work done. And so that kind of leads us into the next thing. We've started closing down our Mexico operations. We just don't see it viable to continue to do business down there. We can't support the overhead with what we have. So we actually laid off 3 people earlier this week, moved a couple of them to part-time, and we'll continue to close out operations. We do have some maintenance contracts that are supposed to go out through the end of this year, but we're going to see what we can do to go ahead and sever those or sell them off to another company, whichever we can do. But yeah, it's time to pull the trigger and go ahead and shut down those operations. I don't see enough growth in the future to sustain it. So with that being said, we can go ahead and jump over to the financial statements, unless we have any questions on operations.
Any questions, Representative Golden?
Yeah, you said you're probably going to start closing out as things go down. What projection of time do you have?
We actually have a conversation with an attorney tomorrow to discuss the timeline for closing out those maintenance agreements. So that's really our biggest ordeal. We have another contract coming up that it'll be a quick turn. It's like a 1-week project to go install some sites. So that's no really concern. It's really those maintenance contracts that are supposed to be extended out through February. I'm hoping within a 3-month time frame, it's completely closed out. That's the goal. But the attorney will give us solid advice on what we'll need to do to get there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. McCutcheon, go ahead.
Okay, so moving on to the financial statements. First one we're looking at is the balance sheet. We had current assets totaling $8.1 million, of which 526 of that is cash. We had other contributing factors of $5.4 million in accounts receivable, $748,000 balance on the CD, and $1.1 million loan in MLA. And as you can see, that loan amount's been growing because we're just having to pay for their operations from the U.S. So another reason we want to shut the hose off there pretty quickly. And next item is $278,000 on the balance in the investment in MLA. Fixed assets had a net position of $6.8 We had current liabilities totaling $3.4 million, of which almost 5 of that is accounts payable. Our next largest contributing factor is a $400,000 balance on the loan from M&BE. We had 240,000 in accrued annual leave, 264,000 in accrued payroll, and 19,000 on a balance in government credits. So our long-term liabilities included $400,000 for our line of credit. Our ownership and equity was about 4.1 million. That was the balance in retained earnings plus 518,000 paid in capital, and we had a net loss of 61,000 for the quarter. So we finished our first quarter on the income statement with $2.7 million in earned revenue. Our direct job expenses were almost $2.3 million for the same period. It gave us a gross profit of $458,000, which was about 16.5%. And our indirect expenses were $144,000, G&A expenses of $369,000, which brought us down to the loss of the $61,000. And then I'm not sure if you want to go over the statement of cash flows or call it there.
You guys want him to go through statement cash flows?
Sure.
Okay, so net income decreased by 61,000. Our accounts receivable decreased by 177,000. Current assets increased by 163,000. Accounts payable decreased by 1.2 million. Our accrued payroll items decreased by 163,000, and current liabilities decreased by 11,000.
Are there any questions for Mr. McCutcheon? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Okay, Mr. McCutcheon, we appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Okay, that is the end of other business. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Are there any announcements? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion from Representative Freeman to adjourn. Do I have a second? A second from Representative Randolph. Representative Golden, would you provide the benediction, please?
Dear God, we just thank you for this precious day that you've given us and make sure that we got here safely. We also ask that you get all of us home safely. And thank you for giving us the wisdom and the knowledge to do the work for our citizens. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative Golden. We're adjourned at 4:04.